Robber Maid's Tale, Episode 5, Part 1, Wolves at My Back, by Cantorin. Hello, Wanderer. Ashen's had his oats, his water's clean, and if I brush him any more, he's going to start demanding a velvet blanket and his own room. So I'm done for the night. Which means I can finally sit down in this straw, stop pretending I'm just the stable girl, and do the thing you keep nudging me toward. Tell you my story. Not the bits you've guessed, not the short version I give drunk men in taverns. The real thing. From the Black Mountains to that cursed lake, to this stable and your ridiculous horse. You, me, Ashen snoring in his stall, lantern low. Listen then, you asked for it. And thank you for the work, for trusting me with Ashen, for the Loft. This is the first honest job I've ever had for a longer time. I know what that's worth. So you get the whole truth. I'm from the north, not your kind of north. Not, oh, it snowed once and everyone wore warm socks. North. The real north. Past the forests, you know. Past the lake everybody whispers about. Past the inland hill cities that think they're the jewels of the world. Further, from the Black Mountains in the far north, where winter doesn't leave. It just takes short naps and wakes up moodier. The mountains there are black, basalt cliffs like broken teeth, ridges of obsidian that shine like glass when lightning hits them and disappear when it doesn't. Storms walk along those ridges so often the thunder might as well be said to rule as queen consort there, a queen with a bad temper. 1 hour the sky is so clear it feels like it's looking straight through you. The next, clouds boil over the peaks, thunder starts arguing with itself, and rain and sleet and snow all arrive together to see which one you hate most. Up there, they say the Wolf King has ruled for 1,000 years and more. Maybe he was a man once. Maybe he still is. Maybe he never was. The mountains are wearing his story like a black cloak, so people have something to be afraid of. But he does really exist. And his army are wolves. You hear them at night, singing from ridge to ridge. When he wants a valley quiet, it goes quiet. When he wants a message carried, it runs on 4 paws and arrives with a mouthful of sharp teeth. The Highlanders, my mother's people, live under that gaze. Up there, blood runs through the women. Names climb the slope, not roll down it. You want to know who you are? You count your mothers and grandmothers, not your fathers. The women live on the slopes and high meadows, in round yurts with thick felt walls among the wolves. They wear black, not for drama, for sense. Black traps heat better, they say, and when the wind comes at you like a pack of knives, every scrap of warmth matters. Some of the sheep in the Black Mountains grow thick, dark wool by the armful, black as the stone itself. You weave what you have. Black cloth drinks what little sun there is, hides soot from the hearth, doesn't show every speck of dirt in what can be quite harsh conditions. Against snow and lightning and black rock, the women look like part of the mountain. They herd the shaggy great goats that treat cliffs like their personal kingdoms. They ride them along paths that are more memory than road. Knives on their belts, rope looped over their shoulders, wolves drifting nearby like extra shadows. Each clan has its own headdress. That's how you tell them apart when all you can see are dark shapes against darker stone. Some wear crowns of raven or eagle feathers that flicker in the wind like smoke. Some wear high felt hats, stiff and tall, stitched all over with clan marks. Others wear wooden crowns, carved from the branches of pine trees that cling to the rocks, laced with silver wire or iron bands. Metals you can dig out of cracks and seams if you know where to look. If it weren't for the wolves, the wealth of those mountains would have been stripped bare centuries ago. Men would have clawed every vein of ore, every glint of stone, until nothing was left but dust. The wolves don't let that happen. My mother's clan wore broad black bands of bear fur, lined with black wool, with crowns of black sheep horn decorated with beads of obsidian, so they sparkled like gems when the light finally bothered to show up. I remember the weight of hers when she let me hold it, warm from her skin, heavy enough that you never forgot what you were carrying. The men lived below, in the foothill villages, where the ground finally starts to remember how to lie flat. Little wooden and stone houses with steep Highlander roofs, carved at the gables, strips of field, pens for sheep and goats. Men there keep flocks of sheep, mend fences, cure sausages and cheeses, spin wool, tan hides, make shoes and harnesses, and all manner of leather goods they sell onto other towns. They argue endlessly about whose cheese is better, whose boots last longer, and whose brine recipe is the proper one. From their doorways they look up and see the slopes dotted with yurt villages, more than you'd think at first. Clusters of round roofs, thin threads of smoke, little stars of fire at night. They don't go up. There's no written law. The wolves are the law. They don't harm women or children unless the Wolf King orders them to. That's the old bargain. The slopes, the yurts, and the high pastures and forests belong to the mothers and their small ones. The wolves guard them. A grown man on those heights is in the wrong place, just waiting to become a wolf's dinner. So the women come down when they choose. They visit husbands, fathers, sons, and brothers in the villages, bring wool, obsidian tools, wood, and news. Sometimes they bring children to meet their fathers, sometimes they don't. And sometimes the mountains gain new daughters. Women from other lands, other cities, slip away in the night, out of homes that only bring pain, as far away as possible from men who will never see them as anything but something owned. The stories say the wolves find them in the forests below, fall in beside them, not chasing, guiding, lead them up the steep paths only women and children can walk safely. They growl in warning if anyone older approaches. If a woman reaches the yurts with wolves at her side, the Highlanders take her in. New name, new clan. The old life was left somewhere below the first ridge. Sons born up there stay with their mothers on the slopes for a while. Boys are children, and the wolves know that. Until 16. At 16, there's a ceremony. The boy walks down to the first ridge with his mother and the wolves. The air is thin there, and sharp, and very quiet. Below, the men are waiting. Fathers, brothers, uncles, grandfathers, waiting and greeting, ready to welcome a new member into their village. The wolves will not cross that line going down. That's not their place. And after that day, the boy will not cross it going up, not if he wants to keep his throat. Mother and son say goodbye there, under the Wolf King's sky. She climbs back up to storms and yurts and black stone and wolf packs. He walks down to fields and leather and cheese and softer weather. That's the way of it. Higher still, in among the upper trees and dark forests, there are ruins. Thousands of years old, walls of black basalt, blocks fitted too tight for even my knife to slip between, toppled and half swallowed by moss and roots. Remnants of a city, they say, from before the Wolf King, before the clans, before anyone remembers. No roofs, no doors, just black ribs lying among the trees, holding stories in a language no one can read. That's the world my mother came from. Black stone, black wool, black-clad women, wolves, storms, old walls with long memories. Me, I'm what happens when that world marries something softer. My father was from the Middle Lands, your kind of country. Fields, hedges, rivers that mostly behave, winters that visit, make everyone annoyed, and then leave politely on schedule. He came north as a leather trader, buying shoes, harnesses, and belts from the Highlanders and selling them in other cities. In return, he would bring the Highlanders bags of sea salt from seaside towns. He never went higher than that first mountain ridge. He listened when people said, "Any further that way is wolves and widow-making." He met my mother when she came down once to trade. She came with other women from her clan, bringing thick black wool and tools of iron and obsidian. The men of the village tried not to stare too long at the wolves shadowing them from above the ridge, or the headdresses catching the light. My father stared anyway. Somewhere between leather goods and cheese, and haggling over salt prices, and whose cheese really was better, they ended up wanting the same life. He stayed, lived in the foothill village, where the wind still bites but doesn't try to flay you. She split herself between slopes and valley, between yurts and the little house he built. I was born somewhere between those two homes. Winters came and went. He got used to the sound of wolves at night. Then one winter came early, stayed late, and forgot how to stop. Snow that buried roofs, ice that crept into homes. Storm after storm paced along the ridges, lightning walking from peak to peak like it was a drummer playing a tune. It was harsh, and he got sick that year with a fever. After that, my father couldn't stop looking south. He wanted his softer land back. Warm rain, deep soil, roads that don't cling to cliffs and laugh when carts fall. My mother wanted him to be happy and healthy. So they decided. We packed what we could carry, folded the yurt that had been half ours, took wool, cheese, and tools, said goodbyes the mountain way. Not loudly, not forever, just like, if you come back, you know the path. If you don't, the sky will still be here. We left the Black Mountains behind us, down into the forests, toward the Middle Lands he called home. If the world were kind, this is where I would tell you we found our way, settled in some muddy village, and that I grew up listening to them argue about which winter had been worse. The world is not kind. Somewhere between the mountains and his homeland, the road narrowed, the trees leaned in, and the wrong men stepped out. Robbers, the ordinary kind, hungry, hard-eyed, quick with knives, shouting, steel. Snow churned up with blood. I remember my mother's hands on my shoulders, shoving me under the broken edge of the cart, the sting of frozen wood against my face, the smell of iron and fear. My father shouted once, then not again. Boots thudded, men grunted, someone laughed in short, sharp bursts that didn't sound like they knew what they were laughing at. When it was over, a hand clamped around my ankle and dragged me out. "What about this one?" a man said. "Small," another answered. "Fast. Fingers like that can learn." They stripped what they wanted. They took my mother's headdress. They took her belt knife. Obsidian blade, horn handle, sharp enough to make steel feel insecure. Later, when they were drunk on stolen spirits and their own cleverness, they dumped all the loot in a heap. Though I was only about 4 years old, I watched, waited, learnt the rhythm of their breathing when they slept. Then I stole one thing back. Here it is. You've seen it. My knife. It looks black until the light catches it. Then the edge goes bright like a line of ice. Obsidian from the Black Mountains. The handle is carved from black sheep horn, with the clan mark scratched into it. They stole it from her. I stole it from them. It's the only piece of my mother I still own. That was my first gang, the original crew. Hard men and women, hard knives. If they could threaten it, they would. If they could sell it, they did. Old Laska half raised me there, scar across her nose, hands like knotted rope, voice like a landslide. She made sure I ate, smacked me when I was stupid, smacked other people harder when they were stupid near me, taught me how to walk close to someone without being seen, how to pick a mark, and how to vanish when the watch turned the corner. For a while, that worked. Then came the wrong town, wrong purse, Wrong victim. Laska picked the pocket of someone who actually mattered. She was seen by the town watchers. They didn't shamble in, half asleep. They swept in. Cloaks, steel, proper chains, the whole performance to put others off. They took the whole crew in one go. Laska, the men, the older boys, all of them. I was across the street in a doorway, the way I usually was when they were doing something risky. Small, watchful, easy to overlook. By the time I realized what was happening, it was already irons and faces shoved into walls and Laska cursing everyone in 3 languages. If I'd run toward them, I'd have just given them one more neck for the shackles. So I didn't. Just like that, the original gang was gone, and I wasn't. After that, it was just me. No cart, no family, no one to tell me when to eat or where to sleep. I clung to that town because I didn't know where else to go. You know how that looks. Sleeping behind barrels, under stairs, in doorways, until someone kicks you out. Begging for crusts of bread. Taking any little job that pays in food. Hauling buckets, sweeping floors, and mucking stalls if the stablemaster doesn't care where the hands come from. Most days my stomach hurt from hunger. Then a caravan came through. Not a grand merchant train, just a muddle of wagons and people. Traders, travellers, families with noisy children and too many pots. They saw me hovering at the edge of their campfires, counting how many bowls were filled. One old woman tossed me a last scrap of bread, then did it again the next night. By the 3rd evening, I was walking at the very edge of the caravan, like some scruffy shadow that had forgotten where it started. They let me drift along. I wasn't with them exactly. I slept under a wagon when nobody chased me off, helped where I could, fetching water, collecting kindling, minding a child who refused to hold anyone's hand but mine. They didn't owe me anything. They gave me distance and a direction. We trundled along for, I don't know, weeks? Roads and fields and small villages blur when you're mostly thinking about your next meal. Eventually the road bent and bent again and brought us into this part of the country, closer to these towns, closer to that lake. When we reached one of the bigger towns near here, they stopped to rest, repair wheels, and trade. I slipped away. No scene, no farewells, just one less stray near their fire. That town had its own pack, not like the first gang. No hard men with blades out all the time. A looser, scrappier lot, mostly homeless children, and a few who'd grown tall but not grown up. They knew the markets, the fairs. They knew which baker left his trays too close to the open window, and which stallholder shouted more than he swung. Petty opportunists, grab-and-run types. They watched me watching them. "Are you hungry?" an older girl asked. I didn't bother answering. I just looked at the bread in her hand. "Can you run?" she asked. I nodded. "Can you keep your mouth shut?" That made me snort. She seemed to like that. "Fine. You hover with us. You're small, and you've got good eyes. We take pouches and tools, not lives. You share. You don't bring the watch down on us. That's the rule." So that became my second crew. Street kids, strays. We followed work the way we always do. Markets, festivals, any excuse for people to carry more than they can hold on to. And that's how we ended up near Silvermeir Hall, with a handful of local gutter rats who saw a rich man's house by the forest and thought, something around there must be worth picking up. Now, that's enough for tonight, wanderer. You can hear it in the stable when a story has reached the edge of trouble. The air changes. Even the straw seems to listen. Ashen shifts in his sleep like he's dreaming of hooves and dark water. If I keep going, I'll start telling you the next part too fast, like I'm trying to outrun it. So we stop here. Tomorrow evening, if you're still here, and if you still want the truth, I'll tell you what we found at Silvermeir, because that was the moment my life stopped being street hungry and became something else entirely.
Ooh.